All glories to thee, Saint Lord. All glories to thee, Saint Lord. All glories to Shri Guru Emperor. Mukam karoti vachalam, vangam langate vigam, yakibam damam bande, Shri Guru Tivacharam. Amagana Timadandasya Gananjada Shilakara Chakshurminitam Yena Tasaman Shri Gurave. So today is the anniversary of ISKCON, 50 years. 50 years ago, Srila Prabhupada incorporated this society, ISKCON, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And in 1965, he was on the boat ride to the USA, and he celebrated his birthday on the boat in 1965. He was 69 years old. And on Janmashtami, the day before his birthday, he took the opportunity to speak to the crew about the philosophy of Lord Krishna. And then he continued on the journey. And on the trip he had 2 heart attacks, as we heard. And any normal person after 1 heart attack would say, okay, I go back home, this is it. But that was the beginning of his preaching. Before he even started, he had 2 heart attacks. And then when he arrived in Boston, he wrote a poem, My dear Lord Krishna, you're so kind upon this useless soul, but I do not know why you have brought me here. Now you can do whatever you like with me. Because as soon as he looked at us, he thought, this is hopeless. These people are hopeless. How can I tell them anything? How will they understand anything about Krishna? He says, but I guess you have some business here, otherwise why would you bring me to this terrible place? Oh, Prabhupada, he was a very cultured Indian gentleman. And he came and he saw all of us who were so uncultured. One of our sannyasis from India, from a cultured family, the first time he came to preach a few years ago. And his comment was, I think there's a shortage of clothes over here. The people are not dressing. And so that was his, I mean, so what could Prabhupada think of us in the Western countries? And so, but then he said all living entities have come under the control of the illusory energy by your will. And by your will, if you like, they can also become free. You can deliver them. I wish that you may deliver them. So first he said, Krishna, if you like. But Krishna may do, Krishna may not do. But then Prabhupada said, I wish. If a pure devotee makes a wish, Krishna has to fulfill it. And so that's why we're all here today, because Prabhupada had that desire that we all be saved, that we all be delivered from this terrible illusion that we are in. So, where were we in 65 and 66? I think some of you may not have been born yet. I was in high school, and my last day of high school, and at the time when Prabhupada landed, drifting aimlessly, not knowing anything, complete ignorance. And the people had sponsored Srila Prabhupada. They had often sponsored, their father was a very pious man who lived in Mathura, the father of Sally Agarwal's husband, Gopal. So his father had often tell them to sponsor some different swamis, but none of them ever came. But now Sally Agarwal got a letter, and she called her husband, sit down, listen to this, the Swami is coming. So they never thought he was going to actually come to their suburban house in America. And he had enclosed his photograph, so they said there will be no mistake there. Gopal had said. So when Prabhupada arrived, he was invited to speak in some of the churches in Butler, Pennsylvania. And he said, by the grace of Krishna, the Americans are prosperous. They're not poverty-stricken. The people in general are satisfied with their material needs, and they are spiritually inclined. So after a few days there, he assessed the situation. He said, when I was in Butler, I saw there were many churches, and they were attending regularly. This shows they're spiritually inclined. So you were saying there's how many churches in Denmark?
10,000.
10,000. That's quite a few for one country. And he saw just in one city there were so many, one small town. What's not even a city? One small town. He said, and I was invited by some churches and colleges, and they appreciated it, and they gave me some token rewards. So when I was speaking to the students, they were very eager to hear about Bhagavatam, but the clergymen were cautious. They were afraid, oh, we're going to lose our people here. He said, so they thought they might be converted. But they don't know devotional service of Krishna is a common religion for everyone, including the Aborigines and cannibals in the jungle. The devotional service is for everyone. It doesn't matter what is your birth. So then he went to New York, and he was remembering. He said, here I am sitting in New York, the world's greatest city. Such a magnificent city. But my heart is always hankering after Vrindavan. I'll be happy to return to my Vrindavan. So you might ask, why am I here? Because it is my duty. I brought some message for you people. I've been ordered by my spiritual master. Whatever you have learned, you should give it to the Western countries. So in spite of all difficulties, I'm here because I'm obligated by duty. And so Prabhupada said that right in the beginning. So then he said, I couldn't understand the difference between friends and enemies. My friend was shocked to hear I was moving to the Bowery. So that's where all the drunken alcoholics are lying on the ground. And he had to walk over them to get to his door, because they would be passed out in front of his doorway. And he said, I never thought this is danger. Everywhere I thought this is my home. So he was at home. And then at 26 2nd Avenue, now here comes what happened, how he incorporated ISKCON. So he was thinking to rent the storefront 26 2nd Avenue. And he had the idea of making the landlord, Mr. Gardner, the first official trustee of ISKCON. So did you know that the landlord, he was looking for people to be the trustees. And the first one was the landlord. And so he was talking with Mr. Gardner to rent the flat. This is how it happened. And he presented him with his 3-volume set of Bhagavatam. He wrote a personal dedication and signed it. And Mr. Gardner felt very flattered, and he agreed to become a trustee of his and to pay the society $20 a month. So he got the rent down because he became one of the trustees of ISKCON. So then after the class, he told, they had a lawyer, Mr. Goldsmith, who was coming to the classes in 1966. So he said, Mr. Goldsmith, now you can ask whatever you like. So the lawyer stood up, and to everyone's surprise, he made a short announcement asking for signers on the incorporation document for the Swami's new religious movement. So everyone was surprised that they had to sign this ISKCON incorporation letter. All of a sudden, they were just a bunch of hippies coming to his classes, and all of a sudden now they're trustees in a movement in ISKCON. So he said, now you take everybody's addresses and they can sign. And so 7 purposes of ISKCON were written in this incorporation: to systematically propagate spiritual knowledge to society at large and educate people and the techniques of spiritual life, in order to check the imbalance of values in life and to achieve real unity and peace in the world. And so we have a lot of our schools, Avanti schools. Let's see if I can find a picture here. We have our adult education, VIHE. Yeah, here's a picture of one of the children in the schools. And here's again the Avanti schools. In UK, there are a whole string of schools, Avanti schools, where they teach Krishna consciousness and Vedic culture. And there are also some colleges in Hungary. There's a college you can get a BA and an MA in Vaishnava science. Also in Belgium. So that was the first purpose of ISKCON, education. The second purpose, to propagate a consciousness of Krishna as it is revealed in Gita and Bhagavatam. 3, to bring the members of the society together with each other and nearer to Krishna, the prime entity. Thus to develop the idea within the members and humanity at large that each soul is part and parcel of the quality of Godhead, Krishna. So, devotee association, that is one of the 6 loving exchanges. To accept prasadam, to give prasadam, to accept gifts, to give gifts, to reveal your mind confidentially, and to also hear the other side, hear instructions. So that is the third principle. 4th, to teach and encourage the Sankirtan movement. So Harinam Sankirtan, congregational chanting of the holy name of God, as revealed in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. 5, to erect for the members in society at large a holy place of transcendental pastimes dedicated to the personality of Godhead. So that was New Vrindavan in America. We have our farm projects, which are supposed to be all like that, those kinds of. Here we have one example. And we have our Govardhan Eco Village as 270, oh no, that's Hungary. Hungary is 270 hectares. And the government is also consulting with the devotees. The Eco Village in Hungary, they get 30,000 visitors every year. And some European leaders see this farm as a model to fight many ecological and economical disorders. And they have a farm conference in Europe now in its 8th year. And I just saw that Hungary, a few days ago, has banned GMO foods. So that could be due to the devotees' influence there. So 5, 6, to bring, this is the same thing, to bring the members closer together for the purpose of teaching a simpler, a more natural way of life. So this is Hungary. Hungary is also having the transcendental pastimes. He has Govardhan Hill, he has Radhakund, they have the Jumuna River flowing through. They have all these things in their farm. They have all the pastime places of Lord Krishna. And they have Vrindavan and Govardhan in different places in the Hungarian village, Eco Village. And the last purpose was a view towards achieving the aforementioned purposes to publish and distribute periodicals, magazines, books, and other writings. So here we have the books, A Lasting Legacy. Up to his last days, Prabhupada was translating, and he he took the order of his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, said to him, if you ever get money, print books. And Prabhupada took that instruction to heart, and he would, every evening, go to sleep around 10:30, and get up at 12:30, 1 o'clock, and translate his books. And that's how it got. Even though he was traveling all around the world 14 times, he never failed to get up early to translate his books. And he said in one letter, our only motto in ISKCON is to read and distribute books. And in Los Angeles, print as many books in as many languages and distribute them throughout the whole world. So, to this day, 516 million books have been distributed since 1966. That may be up there, I don't know, probably. So, now later on he wrote about the incorporation of the ISKCON centers. There's ISKCON, the total ISKCON, then there's the ISKCON centers. He wanted them each to be separate. He said, we want to run all our centers as non-profit religious organizations. That is the main point. Keeping this point in view, too much official control is not good in spiritual life. So they wanted to control everything from Los Angeles at one point. They told Prabhupada, so from Los Angeles we will take all the money and keep it here, and we will give a little bit to each of the temples like that. Prabhupada said, no, each temple should be independent. And Prabhupada, right in the beginning, he stopped that. He said, the center should remain spiritually fit and independent. Too much control means so many vouchers. I don't know if you know what vouchers are, but in India, it is huge. It is a mountain of vouchers. Gradually it will become a mundane institution. All their managers should be spiritually advanced, simply and honest in carrying out the orders of the spiritual master in Krishna. That will be a nice standard. Democracy in spiritual affairs is not at all good, but breeds power politics. We should be careful about power politics. Our only aim should be that each and every devotee is fully dedicated to Krishna, and things will go nicely. So then soon after this, they decided to go out to Tompkins Square Park in New York and have their first outdoor kirtan. And they were on the front page of the Lower East Side newspaper. It was a kind of a hippie newspaper. And the title was, Save Earth Now. That was the title. And a picture of Prabhupada standing under the tree. There's that famous tree in Tompkins Square Park. So Hayagriva was reading the article. Once upon a time, so it was a strange, fanciful story of a group of theologians who had killed an old man in a church, and the subsequent press report that God was now dead. So this was the newspaper article. But the story went on, some people didn't believe it. They had dug up the body and found it to be not the body of God, but that of his PR man, organized religion. At once the good tidings swept around the wide world. God lives. But where was God? A full-page ad in the New York Times offering reward for information leading to the discovery of the whereabouts of God, and signed by Martin Luther King and Ronald Reagan, who was the president at that time, brought no response. People began to worry and wonder again. God said some people lives in a sugar cube. So that was the LSD of the hippies. Others whispered the sacred secret was in a cigarette. That was marijuana. But while all this was going on, an old man, 1 year past 70, wandered into New York's East Village and set about to prove to the world that he knew where God could be found. In only 3 months, the man, Swami A.C. Bhaktivedanta, succeeded in convincing the world's toughest audience, bohemians, acid heads, potheads, and hippies, that he knew the way to God. Turn off, sing out, and fall in. This new brand of holy man, with all due deference to Dr. Leary, has come forth with a brand of consciousness expansion that's sweeter than acid, cheaper than pot, and non-bustable by the police. How is this all possible? Through Krishna, the Swami says. The article ended with a hint that Tompkins Square Park would see similar spiritual happenings each weekend. There in the shadow of Hollings Hill, God lives in a trance-like dance and chant. So that was the first newspaper article on Srila Prabhupada in America. And when Prabhupada went to London, they said, why have you come here? And Prabhupada said, to teach you what you have forgotten, and that is God. So Prabhupada he brought us, he brought God to life. And for us hippies, it was really wonderful to realize that God was young and beautiful and no older than 16. He had long hair and he was dancing and playing his flute, just like a lot of hippies were doing. Oh yeah, why not? It's great. Of course he's God. So Prabhupada, even in the very early days, it's described one day he was sitting on a park bench with a New York City subway conductor who was very friendly with him. And Prabhupada said to him, "I am not a poor man, I am rich. There are many temples and books. They are existing, they are there, but the time is separating us from them." So then he established Janmashtami. The first Janmashtami in 1966. And here we have these hippies, and they're revealing their minds about Janmashtami. Fasting was one problem, and another problem was what to do all day, how to control the mind. When Prabhupada stayed with us in the storefront reading his manuscript from Gita, it was very enjoyable. But whenever he left us alone, our consciousness and conversation dropped way down. We began to complain, "I don't think I can do this. How does he expect us to stay like this all day? This is like being in prison. You can't even leave the temple." Even while Prabhupada was present, one of the disciples said, "Swamiji," well, she wasn't initiated yet, I'm sorry, I have to leave. I have to go home and feed my cats." And Swamiji said, "No, don't do it. Stay here. You can take care of them later." She thought about it and said, "I'm sorry. I have to go and take care of my cats." The rest of us reluctantly surrendered and stayed there for a whole day, which very slowly turned into afternoon and night. We sat against the wall, drowsily and weakly, trying to chant on our new red beads. So they were going to be initiated on Janmashtami. The next day. So most of the prospective initiates, this is the first initiation, what they were doing was stringing their shiny beads. And this went on till 11 o'clock at night. And everyone was invited, and they had paper plates with some fruit. Prabhupada gave them. So then the initiation came. No one was asked to shave his head or cut his hair or change his dress. No one offered Prabhupada Guru Dakshina. Hardly anyone even relieved him of his chores. He had to do most of the cooking and other preparations. Some of them didn't even know until after initiation, when they had inquired about the 4 rules. No intoxication, no meat eating, no gambling. Prabhupada's reply was, "I am very glad you are finally asking me that question." They didn't know until after initiation that they had to follow the 4 rules and regulations. So Prabhupada was very happy, and he distributed prasadam. And so this was the very beginning, incorporation, Janmashtami. After that, he started traveling for many years, and in June, in 71, he traveled from Los Angeles to San Francisco for the 5th Rath Yatra. 200 devotees met him at the airport then. And the reporters were saying, "How many devotees do you have?" Prabhupada said, "Unlimited. Some admit, and some don't admit. Admit you're a servant of Lord Krishna, and your life will be a success." That was Prabhupada. The reporters could never get anything over him. So then he went to Gainesville, Florida. I was there, and I followed behind Prabhupada at the airport, and it was the first time in my life that I felt here is where I belong. I never felt I belonged anywhere in this world until I met Srila Prabhupada. And then I said, yes, I can follow him the rest of my life. So that I felt so secure and so protected at that point in my life. 1971 is when I joined in 70, but I didn't see him until 71. So one reporter from the university newspaper, University of Florida, raised her hand. "I see almost all young people here. Why is that?" Prabhupada said, "Why are there so many young people in the university?" And she thought, well, I guess that's the age for education. "Yes," said Prabhupada. "So this is the age for Krishna consciousness." So then Prabhupada, after in 1972, he was in India and he was starting his projects in Mayapur, Bombay, and Vrindavan, and he asked for 50 devotees to go to India. So we were chosen, my husband and I were chosen, and we were sent with a one-way ticket because he told us to go, but he didn't tell us to go back, so we didn't go back, we stayed. And I've been in India since 1972, actually, in different places. So my